If you had to ask me what my favorite RPG was, for most people, I'd probably give the simple answer of some Legend of Zelda game, probably Twilight Princess or Breath of the Wild, because, well, they technically are RPGs. It's the easier answer because the more truthful answer would probably bring more of a puzzling look on those who I'd give the answer to. Phantasy Star Online. So I think I should establish early why I think it's even important to make a video about this game. I mean, if nobody's ever heard of it before, then why should you care? Well, part of the reality is that Phantasy Star Online 2 is finally coming to America very soon.
Today.
And I'm all here for it. But also that this is a game that, while this is a nostalgic-driven personal video, I think that if you're going to be exploring into the world of Phantasy Star Online 2, that if you're unaware of its origins, then it might be interesting to understand kind of where the game originally came from. Alright, so since this is obviously an MMO that you can't play online anymore, how would you now play this game, or how did you play it when you didn't have an internet connection for your Gamecube or Dreamcast, since the Xbox was maybe a little easier to get? The first thing that this had to do is, because it's a game from 2000, it actually had to have a decent offline experience. Thus, this game provided you with the single player experience of being able to start your character up, be able to go through different missions that would drive you into different areas of the game, earning you money or meseta, experience, and then your ability to eventually traverse through the areas on your own to eventually conquer each of the game's bosses. Now, each of the episodes do kind of have their own overarching stories, but the main game's premise is centered around 7 years ago, Pioneer 1 tried to travel throughout the stars to find a suitable home for mankind, as its Earth was dwindling in resources and, well, even survivability. Something that we sadly will probably be able to relate with much more in the near future. However, when Pioneer 2, your ship, begins to make its way to Ragal and starts making communications with the Pioneer 1 team that is on the planet and already established somewhat of a colony, something goes awry and the planet essentially goes into a giant explosion and everybody from Pioneer 1 disappears. All the wildlife on the planet goes hostile, and you are now trying to figure out what the hell happened, and you're all stuck on your ship that is essentially just floating out in space above the planet. Then, as you play each mission, the game will kind of give you slow intros into the mystery that is surrounding the disappearance of Pioneer 1. You'll kind of get it in small little tidbits as each mission goes. Then, the overarching story in terms of Episode 1, for example, is surrounded by the principal's daughter, Red Ring Rico, as you try to figure out what happened to her amongst the others of Pioneer 1, as she was somewhat of a popular figure amongst those in the Hunters Guild. So inevitably you'll kind of find her little journals and breadcrumbs that lead you through each of the areas amongst the game. Episode 2 then focuses on the fate of Heathcliff Flowin. Yeah, that name is a mouthful. And the mysterious plot by a Dr. Austin. Osto? I said that wrong. These names, man, these names. But what made the story interesting was the fact that it absolutely took a backseat to the gameplay itself. So it didn't distract you from the game that you were playing and just kind of let you run around and explore and do these missions, but at the same time, it just kind of was there for you to try to unravel and kind of turn yourself into your own detective. So the game has 3 main classes with 4 subclasses for each one. Now this does kind of break down a little bit, but it breaks into Hunters, Rangers, and Force. Alright, well, not that type of force, but also still Space Wizards, so I guess. The subsections of each class are based on the male and female versions of the 3 races. That would be the humans, the Numans, and the Caste. The Ray Caste and the Faux Nuero being the best ones. Fight me about it. However, while the class options are pretty limited, they make up for it by being very versatile. So you can be a ranger and still use a melee weapon, or you can still be a force user and use a semi-automatic dual gun approach. You're just not going to be as good at any of those things as the other class. So the hunter, being the best melee, will be able to use more melee weapons, so all of them, but then also still be able to use some ranged weapons for when they need them in a pinch. The game is then split up between 2 episodes. Episode 1 is what was available when the original released with the Dreamcast. Episode 2 then got added when it got ported to the Gamecube and eventually the Xbox. The episode 1 takes place between 4 different areas on Rhaegal that have 2 to 3 parts each. Episode 2 has 7 areas, however most of them only have 2. Now the gameplay is probably something that most people might struggle with nowadays, especially I'm going to be saying this in the Gamecube controls, because you can't just mash A, B, or X to just do all of your attacks rapid fire. You have to almost have a rhythm to your attacks, which is something that especially for 10-year-old me was a very difficult challenge. It's slow, but it's methodical. It forces you to know exactly what your output after 3 attacks is going to be, and maybe what you need to mix up between multiple types of attacks, which is why it's nice that it has a quick kind of equip option in the menu system, so that you can quickly switch between any guns or weapons that are available to you in the game, or be able to have multiple ways of casting or utilizing your attacks. This game at the beginning might as well be classified as a horror game, because early level experience can be very frightening once you get cornered, because there's no block button in this game. It is either you just happen to block an attack by a total happen circumstance based on your defense rating, or you get knocked down. So with Phantasy Star Online 2 just about to have its official North American launch, why should you care about this game? Well, honestly, probably you shouldn't. It's slow, it's clunky, it doesn't really get in your way, but at the same time, there's parts of that, especially that last part, that kind of are non-existent today. Sure, PSO2 isn't perfect, it definitely, and it doesn't match this game at all. It's much faster. It kind of does maybe have some questionable things with the whole gambling thing, and it is maybe 9 years too late to the party, where how many people are really going to be into it when it launches, which I guess we'll see. I haven't really looked at the numbers during its Xbox beta sequence, though I was hearing that they're actually pretty good. But if you do have something like an old Dreamcast, Gamecube, you're still able to use your Xbox games, and you can play the offline experience of this game, then I kind of recommend going out and trying it. Not just because you want to totally replace the Phantasy Star Online 2 experience, or because you're looking for something that feels new and snappy and totally fits the kind of current climate of video games, but because it's unique. It did something different. It was pioneering. This was when there was barely any MMOs, and let alone MMOs on a console. That just didn't exist back then. I mean, this was a game where at one point you had to pay for both Xbox Live and the online subscription. Like, that's nuts. So yeah, is it perfect? No. But are many games right now perfect? No. But this game is amazing, and you should 100% try it. It's one of my favorite games ever, and I'll always love it as much as I do love Zelda games. And they're always going to be close to my heart, but this game just hits different. And it's really not something you can really know until you experience it yourself. Thank you guys so much for watching and listening to me pour my heart out for this game that I've loved since I was a kid. If this is a game that you have always loved and you would like me to maybe take a look at, put it in the comments down below. Otherwise, if you did like this video, hit that button. It'll help me out a lot. And subscribe for more content like this and many others.